that on July the 6th, 1986, it was learned that the government of the United States had planned to move the Navajo Indians off of their lands, and I pledged to them that I would be there with them when the government and the soldiers appeared. You may say, Brother Farrakhan, that is very dangerous. Yes, it is. But I am convinced more so now than ever before that there's a power with me that the United States government will soon recognize, if they don't already recognize it, and you too will come to recognize it. And I had to be there with the Indians because the United States government is a very murderous government, and they will stop at nothing to get their ends. But I believed with all my heart that if I were among the Indians, that they would not do anything. Because if I am just scratched accidentally by you, you will be destroyed completely.
America's treatment of its most vulnerable has always exposed the gap between its ideals and its actions. In this speech, Minister Louis Farrakhan confronted that reality head-on. He spoke of government plans against Native communities and linked their struggle to the ongoing fight of black people. His warning was a blunt call to recognize that the power of the state can destroy, but the power of faith and unity can outlast it. For Farrakhan, the message was absolutely clear. The oppressed cannot wait for permission to rise, and those who cling to domination are already facing decline. Let us all continue watching this legendary speech.
Everywhere I went on my 50,000-mile journey, the wheel went with me. I don't have time on this short broadcast to deal with all the specifics of what I saw, what I heard, but I knew that the wheel was with me in Ghana, in Burkina Faso, in Nigeria, in Ivory Coast, in Benin, and it was with me in Libya. I knew that the wheel interfered with the electronic communication of the aircraft carrier that America had there, the Sixth Fleet, in the Gulf of Sirte or the Gulf of Sidra, and that aircraft carrier had to return to Miami for servicing. I understood when Gaddafi shot down 3 American planes and there was not a responsive answer by all of that firepower in the Mediterranean, there was a power bigger than America's power interfering with America's power, and later it came out in the news that a bright yellowish orange object, a wheel-like object, was spotted in the Mediterranean. I am telling America that wherever I am, the wheel is. And you had better be very careful how you deal with me. Your end is in sight. This is for Reagan and the whole staff. You have no power today against what I am doing. Remember that.
In this section of his address, Minister Louis Farrakhan spoke about what he described as the presence of the wheel. He explained that it was with him during his travels in Africa, specifically Ghana, Burkina Faso, Nigeria, Ivory Coast, Benin, and Libya. He did not give every detail of what he experienced, but he made it clear that he believed this wheel was more than symbolic. To him, it was a force that accompanied and protected him. He recalled how the wheel interfered with the electronic communication systems of an American aircraft carrier. This was the Sixth Fleet, operating in the Gulf of Sidra near Libya. According to Farrakhan, the disruption was so significant that the carrier had to return to Miami for servicing. He presented this as evidence of a power greater than America's technology, acting directly in response to its presence in the region. Farrakhan also connected this to an incident involving Colonel Muammar Gaddafi. He noted that Gaddafi ordered 3 American planes to be shut down, yet there was no military response despite the firepower stationed in the Mediterranean. For Farrakhan, the absence of retaliation suggested intervention. He interpreted this as proof that the wheel had interfered with America's ability to strike back. Later, he reminded his audience that reports in the news had confirmed sightings of an unusual object. A bright, yellowish-orange, wheel-like craft had been seen over the Mediterranean. To Farrakhan, this supported what he had already experienced and described. It was, in his view, an undeniable sign that a higher power was active. From this account, Farrakhan issued a warning. He declared that wherever he was, the wheel was also present. He cautioned the American government, naming President Ronald Reagan and his staff, that they should be careful in how they dealt with him. He insisted that their end was in sight. The message was not about military strength alone. It was a statement about authority, about divine will, and about the limits of earthly power. Farrakhan made clear that, in his view, America had no ability to stop the mission he was carrying out. For him, the wheel represented a force beyond any human system of control. Reflecting on these words shows how he positioned himself within a larger struggle. He did not frame the wheel as distant or detached, but as present in real conflicts. By naming specific events, an aircraft carrier forced into retreat, American planes halted without response, a strange object seen by witnesses, he sought to ground his claim in recognizable history. His conclusion was direct. He wanted America to remember that it could not win against what he was declaring. For his supporters, this speech was not simply about geopolitics in the Mediterranean or Africa. It was about the appearance of a sign that revealed the weakness of the strongest nation on earth when faced with divine intervention. These remarks continue to stand out in his body of work because of their certainty. They were not presented as speculation, they were not framed as possibilities. They were delivered as testimony, as something he had lived, seen, and carried. That is why he told his listeners to take the warning seriously and to understand that the wheel, in his words, was real. Let's continue.
When we went and got into the Four Corners area of northern Arizona, we showed up in the wee hours of July 4th. We had timed it in accord with that which happened 56 years ago on July 4th, when a very mysterious and powerful man showed up in America, Master Farad Muhammad, to whom praise is due forever, who manifested in North America, the great Mahdi, in 1930, declaring the independence of the black man from white people. 56 years later, in the early morning of July 4th, we manifested among the Indians, declaring not the independence of the Indians, for they are already that, but declaring the union of the black and the red. You may ask yourself, well, Farrakhan, why would you be among the Indians? They are not our people. Master Farad Muhammad, the great Mahdi, when he was in our presence, and Mahdi is an Arab word which means the self-guided one, or one who comes to guide to the right path. And if you behold our movements, you can tell, if you're objective, that somebody is guiding us that is bigger than we are. The fact that I was able to get back in the country without their seeing me, yet they were looking for me and had alerted every airport and every seaport to be aware that I was on my way. Think about that. And yet when I got here, they didn't see me. Didn't know I was here. right up under their nose. I'm not bragging. What I'm telling America is your plans didn't work. And God wants to show you that anything you plan against me, it's really against yourself. So plan on.
In this portion of his message, Minister Louis Farrakhan recalled a journey to the Four Corners region of northern Arizona. He explained that the visit took place in the early hours of July 4th, chosen deliberately to align with a moment in history. 56 years earlier, on July 4th, 1930, Master Fard Muhammad appeared in North America. Farrakhan described him as a mysterious and powerful figure, honored as the Great Mahdi, who declared the independence of the black man from white domination. By returning to the Four Corners on that date, Farrakhan said the aim was not to proclaim the independence of Native Americans, for they were already a distinct and sovereign people. Instead, he declared a union between black and Native peoples, symbolically bringing the black and the red together. For Farrakhan, this was more than an act of solidarity. It was a continuation of the guidance set in motion decades before. He explained that Master Fard Muhammad's title, Mahdi, is an Arabic term meaning the self-guided one, or the one who comes to guide to the right path. Farrakhan linked this title to his own movement, arguing that the growth and resilience of the Nation of Islam could only be understood as the work of a power greater than human effort. He urged his listeners to recognize that their progress was not accidental. In his view, it bore the mark of divine guidance. Farrakhan then reflected on his own return to the United States at that time. He described how government agencies had been alerted to his movements. Airports and seaports were placed on notice, with officials instructed to watch for his arrival. Yet according to his account, he was able to re-enter the country undetected. He emphasized that he was not boasting about this, but drawing attention to a larger reality. His point was that the most powerful systems of surveillance had failed, and that this failure was not due to his own cleverness. It was, in his words, a demonstration that God's will could override the plans of men. For Farrakhan, the lesson was direct. He said that America should recognize that any scheme against him was ultimately a scheme against itself. In his eyes, the inability of authorities to prevent his return served as a warning. It showed that divine power, not governmental power, was decisive. This section of his speech is significant because of how he connected history, symbolism, and personal experience. By tying his arrival at the Four Corners to the appearance of Master Fard Muhammad in 1930, he rooted his actions in a timeline that stretched beyond his own life. By declaring a union between black and Native peoples, he emphasized a shared destiny among oppressed communities. And by pointing to his unobserved re-entry into the United States, he underscored his belief that God's hand was actively protecting and guiding his mission. Farrakhan's words framed his presence in America as something no earthly power could block, and his alignment with the date of July 4th as a reminder that the independence once declared for America carried a deeper meaning for the people he represented. His final reminder to America in this portion was clear. Your plans did not work, and they cannot work, because the struggle he was carrying forward was not merely political. It was, in his view, upheld by God. Let's continue.
That wheel followed me in the Middle East. It followed me in the Far East. And as I was moving back into America, that wheel followed me on the airplane. I looked out of my window and saw it there. And it began to perform for me, letting me know it was not a star. I am not a drunken man. I am not a nut. I don't speak as one crazy. And I am not one that wants honor from the people. I care nothing about your honor or you honoring or crediting me. I have a job to do in the name of God and in the name of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and I'm on my job. And no one and no power in the heaven above or in the earth beneath will interfere with me in the carrying out of my mission, and all those who want death will try it. And death will be your answer. because nothing and no power today can stop the rise of the black man, and I want you to know the rise of the red man.
In this portion of his address, Minister Louis Farrakhan described what he called the wheel following him through different regions of the world. He stated that it was with him in the Middle East, in the Far East, and even as he traveled back toward America. On one flight, he recalled looking out of the airplane window and seeing it there. To him, the movements of the wheel made clear that it was not a star or an illusion. He insisted that it performed in a way that removed all doubt. Farrakhan paused to defend the seriousness of his claim. He denied that he was speaking under the influence of alcohol or madness, and he made it clear that he was not seeking honor from people by telling this story. In his view, recognition from the world was irrelevant. What mattered was the mission he believed he carried from God and from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. That mission, he explained, could not be stopped. He said no power in heaven or on earth would interfere with him in carrying it out. He also warned that anyone who attempted to oppose it would only meet death. His message was not about self-glory, but about what he believed was divine will acting through him. The most important claim in this passage was not simply that he saw the wheel, but that its presence was a sign of protection and validation. For Farrakhan, the wheel symbolized a force larger than nations, larger than governments, larger than armies. Its appearance beside him, even while in flight, was evidence to him that his work was under divine supervision. From that foundation, he broadened his point. He said directly that nothing could stop the rise of the black man. This was not limited to one community or nation, but extended, in his words, to the red man as well, referring to native peoples. The wheel, then, was not only a personal sign to him, but also a signal of a larger movement, one rooted in the advancement and uplift of oppressed peoples. Looking at this reflection, what Farrakhan communicated was a merging of vision, faith, and mission. The wheel, in his account, was both literal and symbolic. The closing line of this section pointed to a future shaped by this force. He declared that no matter the opposition, the rise of those once held down would not be stopped. To his followers, this was reassurance. To his critics, it was a provocation. But to Farrakhan, it was testimony, given with conviction that his words were tied to events he had personally witnessed. Let's continue.
This day God has placed me above you. I am not your slave. You will recognize this servant of Almighty God as Pharaoh was forced to recognize Joseph. Let's move on. Up among the Indians, we prayed, we fasted, as you prayed and fasted. You did not know that we had decided, 4 of us. It came to me that I should go by myself and not take any of you with me, because I knew what I'm prepared to do, but I don't know what anybody else is prepared to do. I am born to give my life for the resurrection of our people and for the union of the black and the red and the oppressed peoples of the earth. I'm born to do that. So when a man is born to do what he's born to do, and he does what he's born to do, he can't ask of you unless you commit yourself. If you are ready to stand up and to give your life for a cause that's bigger than your life, then that's your commitment. I've made mine. And I'm not asking anybody for your commitment. That's up to you. So it was revealed to me to go by myself and to take just those who are committed with me to give their lives. Immediately, Sister Tainetta Muhammad said, I'm going. Immediately, my wife, Sister Khadija Muhammad, said, I'm going. And Brother Jabril came later, and when we told him, he said, I'm going. So the 4 of us decided we would go And I said, we're not to go in the fringe, we're to go right to the front line. Wherever death is, we go right there. Challenge death. Challenge it, because death has no power today over the force of life that is with us. I know some of you say that man has bugged completely out. He's been away too long. He went overseas and went crazy. You watch me. If you think I bugged out, get on to the sideline and just watch the show. It's the greatest show on earth. It's the life of Jesus all over again.
In this passage, Farrakhan lays out a commitment framed as a calling. He describes a decision to move alone into danger, to take only those who openly vowed to follow him, and to place himself where the threat was greatest. The act was intentional. He timed his arrival to a symbolic date tied to a movement's earlier turning point. He connected that timing to a lineage that traces back to Master Fard Muhammad and used it to mark a union between peoples who have suffered under domination. Farrakhan presents his choice as a test of readiness. He measures commitment by whether a person will accept risk for a cause that exceeds personal survival. He claims he was born for this purpose, and that his life has been given to the resurrection of his people and to the union of Black and Native communities. That language is absolute in tone and deliberate in function. It is meant to separate those who will act from those who will only watch. What follows is a description of a small band of people who volunteered without hesitation. Family and close associates answered the call. Their willingness to go, in his telling, signaled alignment with the mission rather than mere sympathy. The choice to go to the front line, to place themselves where death might appear, is described as a conscious tactic. Farrakhan frames death as something to be confronted and disarmed, not something that can claim authority over a life guided by divine purpose. He asserts that the force of life with him outweighs the reach of death. There is a discipline in his rhetoric. He denies that his actions are performance or display. He rejects the idea that his return or his presence was the result of luck. When he describes moving undetected through systems that were actively watching for him, he uses that instance to argue that plans against him ultimately collapse. The point he makes is strategic as well as moral. Opposition aimed at stopping his work will fail because the work rests on a power he identifies as divine. The passage also functions as a test for the listener. Farrakhan makes clear that he will not coerce loyalty. He claims ownership of his commitment and leaves the choice to others. That refusal to demand recruits creates a moral boundary. Commitment must be chosen freely, and sacrifice must be voluntary to count. The emphasis on voluntary devotion frames the movement he describes as one that depends on the depth of personal resolve more than on numbers. He closes that section by reframing public perception. He challenges those who would call him deluded. He invites skeptics to observe rather than intervene, offering his actions as evidence. In doing so, he converts personal risk into a pedagogical moment. The audience is asked to measure character by what a person will endure for an idea. Let's continue.
Now, while among the Indians, we prayed and fasted. I ask you to pray and fast. And I thank you so much, those of you that fasted those 4 or 5 days. I'm sure you felt something in that prayer and in that fasting, even if you did 1 day or 2 days or whatever you were able to do. Thank you for that fast and those prayers. They helped. What I wanted you to see is that there is a power in prayer and there is a power in fasting that is bigger than the little weapons of war that America has amassed and is still amassing to defend what she cannot defend. She cannot defend her right to exist on this earth 1 minute after the time has been decreed. Unless America changes, guns will not change America. More bombs and bombers will not change America. Her own religious people are warning America that she is going the way of all the ancient wicked powers that went before her. And unless America changes, she's through as a power in the world. She is steadily on the decline now. Her fall is taking place even as I speak to you. Yes. She knows it, and when she tells you it, you won't be in a position to be prepared for the fall, because she's such a deceiver. She's keeping this from the people, but she is already falling down. You can check your fall, America. You still have a little time. But you can't check it with weapons. And you can't check it by attacking me and calling me a nut. Because before you can call me crazy, these wheels will be seen all over America.
In this passage, Farrakhan framed prayer and fasting as instruments of power, not ritual comforts. He thanked those who had fasted for days and those who fasted for a single day, insisting that their sacrifice produced an effect. Prayer, he said, and the discipline of fasting reach beyond weaponry and technology. He presented these practices as ways to call into existence forces that outmatch the material strength of any military. For black people in particular, he stressed that fasting and prayer were shields of strength that could not be taken away by oppression or denied by systems of power. That claim matters because he used it to make a larger point about America. Farrakhan argued that military buildup cannot secure a nation whose moral direction has been compromised. More bombs, more planes, and more arsenals will not correct what he described as spiritual decline. He insisted that even voices inside America's religious establishment were warning of collapse, and he tied this warning to the lived reality of black communities, who already felt the weight of a nation losing its moral ground. Unless America changed course, he said, its position in the world would erode, and the conditions faced daily by black people would only worsen. He did not offer this as vague prophecy. He spoke with specificity and urgency. According to him, the fall was not a distant possibility, but a process already underway. He warned that the truth of that decline would be hidden from most citizens because of deliberate deception. For black communities who have always been among the first to feel the brunt of America's decline, this warning carried particular weight. Into this diagnosis, Farrakhan inserted a direct challenge. National survival cannot be won through force alone. He urged listeners to recognize limits to what weapons can accomplish. The logic was simple in form and stark in implication. If the foundation of power is moral authority, then military superiority is insufficient when that foundation collapses. If a people lose direction, technology cannot restore their legitimacy. He tied this critique to a concrete image. Farrakhan predicted the public appearance of the wheel across America, a sign he said would precede and reveal the extent to which plans against him and his movement had failed. The image functioned both as warning and as proof. He used it to underscore the claim that unseen forces were active in world affairs and that sacred work had protection beyond human means. Listening to these lines, the appeal is twofold. On one level, it is practical. He called for prayer, fasting, and moral attention as measures that contribute to communal strength. On another level, it is political. He challenged the assumption that power is reducible to tanks and satellites. He asked his audience, and particularly black communities, to reassess where authority truly lies and to act accordingly. Whether one accepts his metaphors or not, the underlying argument compels consideration. Societies that ignore moral and spiritual questions tend to create fragility in areas technology cannot reinforce. Religious and civic leaders, he argued, have a role to play in restoring equilibrium. And black people, by committing to discipline and conviction, can help shape that shift and model resilience. The closing tone of this passage is a mixture of urgency and insistence. Farrakhan insisted that time remained to alter course, but he would not concede that weapons or denigration could avert the outcome he described. He invited listeners, especially within black communities, to test his words by turning inward, by embracing prayer and fasting as tools of resistance, and by refusing to trust a narrative that equates material accumulation with security. Thanks for watching. If this message gave you something to think about, make sure to like the video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to Black Journals so you don't miss the next one.